Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a closer look at a really powerful ancient text, Nehemiah chapter 6. Our mission really is to extract some practical strategies for facing opposition, maintaining resolve, drawn right from this compelling story. We're digging into our source material, MCS Nehemiah chapter 6, which unpacks the tactics Nehemiah faced and how he managed to stand so strong.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here is how the text just highlights these timeless strategies of adversity. I mean, whether it's external pressure or, internal doubts, Nehemiah's commitment, his unwavering commitment to his work and purpose, it really lays out a kind of masterclass in resilience that, honestly, it resonates thousands of years later. It's definitely about more than just building a physical wall. It's navigating these complex human and spiritual dynamics.
Absolutely. So, okay, Nehemiah is doing this incredible work rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. What's the very first tactic his enemies, Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, what do they use against him, according to Nehemiah 6, verse 1?
Well, the moment they hear the walls progressing, right, even though Nehemiah clarifies it's not fully sealed, the doors aren't up yet, they immediately start spreading rumors. The text says they claim the wall is complete, like not a single gap, even before it actually is. And this first confrontation, this distortion, it reminds us of just a fundamental tactic in opposition, deliberately twisting the truth. Whether we call it misinformation or gossip or just outright lies, it's an age-old strategy. It's designed to sow doubt, undermine legitimate work, create confusion, trust issues.
Okay, so those initial rumors, they don't really deter Nehemiah. So the enemies, they quickly shift gears. We read in Nehemiah 6.2, they try a different angle. Come, let's meet together in one of the villages of the Ono Valley. But Nehemiah, he clearly saw right through that, didn't he? Right. What kind of deception is going on there?
Exactly. It's a phony peace deal, isn't it? A deceptive invitation sort of masked as a friendly meeting. The insight here, I think, is to think critically about the real nature of proposed peace or collaboration, whether it's ancient times or, right now in contemporary situations. It's really a call to examine the underlying motives because, genuine peace needs a foundation of truth and integrity, not hidden agendas. It's an attempt to lure someone away from their main task, basically, under the guise of resolution.
Right. So what does this first round of deception really mean for us practically? It's a powerful reminder, I think, that I was trying to discern the true intentions behind things that look innocent on the surface, maybe invitations or information, especially when something just feels off. Trust that discernment, especially when dealing with anything that might compromise your integrity or pull you away from what really matters. So, okay, how did Nehemiah actually respond to this deceptive invitation, this false olive branch? Nehemiah 6.3 tells us he sent back this really powerful short message. I'm too busy with important work to come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it to come down to you? What's so key about that response?
Well, this is just a profound lesson in focus, isn't it? And prioritizing what's truly important, what the source calls God's work or kingdom work, endeavors aligned with a higher purpose or a divine mission. Nehemiah recognized these invitations weren't just about a meeting, they were strategic distractions, designed specifically to halt the critical progress he was making. His answer wasn't rude, not at all. It was strategic, principled. It showed this unwavering commitment to his task.
And here's where it gets really interesting, for me anyway. They didn't give up. Nehemiah 6.4 says they sent this exact same message 4 times, and he gave the same answer each time. This wasn't just a one-off temptation, was it? It was like a persistent assault on his focus.
Yeah, the repetition is highly significant. It really shows us that resistance is often, it's a continuous act. It's not just a one-time decision. Challenges often come repeatedly, don't they? They test our resolve. Nehemiah's consistency, it teaches us we can find strength in just consistently saying no to those persistent temptations or distractions that try to pull us away from our core purpose. It does raise an important question for all of us, I think. How many times do we give in when maybe we should stand firm and, maintain our focus? Nehemiah really demonstrates that consistency, standing firm. It's a powerful defense.
Okay, so the fake peace offer didn't work. The repeated attempts, they failed. What's the enemy's next move when that direct deception and persistent distraction just fall flat?
Well, when their first tactics failed, the intimidation, it really intensifies. Our source material details that in Nehemiah 6, verses 5 to 7, on the 5th attempt, Sanballat sent his servant but this time with an open letter. Full of gossip and just outright threats. This wasn't subtle anymore. The accusations were severe, potentially deadly. Nehemiah was accused of planning a revolt, intending to be king, even appointing prophets to proclaim this. And they threatened this report was going straight to King Artaxerxes, the penalty for a rebellion. That would have been death. It's a clear attempt to force a meeting through, well, sheer fear and public humiliation.
Wow. And Nehemiah's reply in verse 8 is just so direct. Nothing like what you were saying is being done. You're making it all up in your head. What's the power in such a concise, almost simple refutation?
His response is all about recognizing the attack for exactly what it is. A fabrication, a lie. He wasn't intimidated because he knew the truth of his own actions, his intentions. The implication for us, I think, is that our reaction to falsehoods like that should be similar. We just stand on the truth. There's often no need to get defensive or, engage in these lengthy debates. Sometimes simply refuting the lie with clear truth is the most powerful response you can make.
And then there's this really powerful moment in Nehemiah 6.9. After acknowledging their goal was to sap their strength, to stop the work, Nehemiah doesn't dwell on the fear. Instead, he prays, "But now, God, increase my strength." What does that tell us about his approach to these, overwhelming challenges?
Oh, what's truly fascinating there is the immediate turn to seeking strength, right in the face of intimidation. It's a recognition that relying on a higher power, it aligns us with a greater will, and it allows us access to, profound inner strength. This fundamental truth means we can face significant threats without just succumbing to fear, because our ultimate strength comes from a source greater than any earthly challenge. It's a profound demonstration of resilience and faith in action. It reminds us that when we feel our own strength fading, we can always seek that external bolstering power.
Okay, so just when you think Nehemiah's dealt with all the external stuff, the enemy tries a different tactic, getting to him through someone he might actually consider a trusted advisor. In Nehemiah 6.10, Nehemiah visits this guy Shemaiah, who's apparently confined at home.
Mm-hmm.
And this person suggests Nehemiah should hide inside the temple itself, claiming assassins are coming for him, even at night. That feels like a really subtle, insidious attack, designed to get him to compromise his principles out of fear.
Yeah, it's a classic tactic, trying to induce fear from within trusted circles. The source highlights that Shemaiah himself was probably fearful, and that Nehemiah recognized this fear wasn't from, a place of divine guidance. It was something designed to undermine him. Fear can be incredibly contagious, can it? And it can be strategically deployed through people we least suspect to get us to compromise our values or abandon our mission. Nehemiah's discernment here is just absolutely critical.
And Nehemiah's response in verse 11 is just so bold, it's really inspiring. "Should a man like me run away? Can a man like me go into the temple to save his life? I refuse to go in." He literally refused to give in to the fear tactics, even with this terrifying threat of assassination hanging over him.
Yeah.
How is that refusal so important, do you think?
Well, this is where his unwavering faith and integrity just shine through. Nehemiah understood his identity, his mission. It meant he couldn't hide or compromise his integrity by entering a sacred space he wasn't actually permitted to enter, simply out of fear for his life. And it raises an important question for us, doesn't it? How do we discern when advice, even from someone close, is truly sound? Or if it's maybe influenced by fear or hidden motives or even deception? The text in verse 12 reveals Nehemiah realized that God had not sent him, and that Shemaiah was actually bribed by Tobiah and Sanballat. It's a powerful reminder to, as the source puts it, test the spirits, to critically examine the source and the nature of advice, especially when it pushes us toward fear or compromise.
And the motivation behind this internal attack is pretty chilling, as verse 13 explains. It was to frighten him into a compromising act, to discredit him, ruin his reputation. It wasn't just about stopping the wall anymore. It was about destroying Nehemiah as, a person of integrity.
Yeah, that insight is crucial. The opposition's goals are often twofold: stop the work and discredit the person doing it. Nehemiah understood it would be a fundamental compromise to succumb to fear or to violate sacred boundaries just for personal safety. It would ruin his witness as a man of integrity, his reputation, his moral standing. So when we face intimidation, we're reminded to rely on our internal strength, our principled stand, and to remember that faithfulness, or as the source calls it, God's name Elhanan, faithful, it emphasizes this unwavering reliability that we can try to emulate.
Okay, so after all these attacks, the lies, the fake peace offers, the persistent distractions, the open threats, the internal betrayal, what was the final outcome? The incredible news in Nehemiah 6.15 is that the wall was finished on the 25th day of the month, Elul, in 52 days. 52 days, that's just astonishing speed under that kind of immense pressure.
It really is. It's a beautiful testament to the power of that unwavering focus and divine assistance to accomplish such a monumental task in just 52 days, despite just relentless opposition. It speaks volumes about the drive and effectiveness possible when someone is truly committed and supported. It's an undeniable achievement that just defied all logic, really, given the circumstances.
And the impact this had on the enemies, as described in verse 16, it's profound. When all our enemies heard about it and the surrounding nations became afraid, our enemies' self-esteem fell severely because they realized that this work had been accomplished by our God.
Right. That shows that true achievement, especially when it's attained against overwhelming odds, it's just undeniable. Even the enemies had to acknowledge that, well, a higher power was at play. It teaches us that when significant progress happens, especially when it's fueled by deep conviction and perseverance, the opposition is often kind of psychologically defeated. They recognize their efforts to undermine have just been futile against a greater force, whether you see that force as collective will or unwavering spirit or divine intervention.
But here's the twist, and it really feels like a stark warning about vigilance. It wasn't just the external enemies. The text in verses 17 to 19 reveals that even some nobles of Judah were sending letters to Tobiah. They were actually working with the enemy. It says they were focused on business and getting along for financial reasons, basically compromising their allegiances from within.
Yeah, this final segment really highlights the pervasive danger of internal compromise and hidden opposition. Tobiah's strategic alliances, remember, he was son-in-law to Shechaniah, and his son married a Levite woman. These created loyalties within the community itself that worked against Nehemiah's mission. It's a stark reminder that subversion can come from really unexpected places, sometimes right from within our own circles, driven by comfort or financial gain or just a desire to get along at any cost. And it raises a critical question for us. Are we aware of those subtle influences that might be compromising our own integrity or mission from within? Perhaps from those who value personal comfort or gain over a shared purpose.
Wow. What a deep dive into Nehemiah chapter 6. I mean, from deceptive invitations and blatant threats to those persistent distractions and even internal betrayal, Nehemiah just stood firm. He stayed focused on the work and trusted in his higher purpose. His story really is a masterclass in resilience, isn't it? An unwavering commitment.
Absolutely. The lessons here are so vital for navigating our own lives today. Discerning truth from manipulative falsehoods, resisting distraction, confronting fear with steadfastness, testing the true nature of advice, and just remaining firm, even when opposition comes from unexpected places. It's about understanding the nature of persistent challenges and knowing where our true strength lies when we're pursuing something important.
It really makes you think about the power of that unwavering resolve when you're convinced you're doing important work that truly matters. Yeah. So what stands out to you listening from Nehemiah's story? How does his steadfastness maybe challenge or inspire you in your own endeavors?
And as you reflect on this, maybe consider this provocative thought. If Nehemiah had compromised just once, or given into fear, even slightly, how might the entire rebuilding of the wall, and frankly the historical narrative, have changed? What is the one thing in your own life where perhaps, like Nehemiah, you need to stand without compromise and say, you know what, I'm too busy with important work to come down?
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope it's given you some powerful insights to mull over. Until next time, keep digging into what truly matters.